Chosen one, why are you still struggling at 75? Why does your faith feel heavier instead of lighter after decades of believing? Why, after a lifetime of prayer, do you still wake up at 3 a.m. wondering if God has forgotten your name? Stop, right there, before you scroll away thinking this is just another message in your feed. If you are hearing this today, the 15th of September or 16th, it is no accident. The Lord Himself has orchestrated this divine collision between your desperate heart and His final answer. This isn't coincidence. This is appointment. Picture this. An elderly woman walks to her mailbox every day for 43 years. Letters come and go, bills, advertisements, reminders of a world that's forgotten her worth. But buried beneath decades of ordinary mail lies one envelope she's never opened, yellowed with time, sealed with heaven's own hand, containing the answer to every midnight prayer she's ever whispered. That letter is this message. And you, dear chosen one, you are that woman standing at the mailbox of destiny. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Your greatest breakthrough isn't coming in your youth, it's coming in your golden years. While the world whispers too late, heaven thunders right on time. The very age that society discards is the season God has been saving for your most magnificent chapter. But why the 15th of September and 16th? Why these precise dates carved into eternity's calendar? Stay with me, the answer will shatter everything you thought you knew about divine timing. You see, most believers spend their entire lives waiting for God to show up. But what if I told you that for 70, 80, 90 years, you haven't been waiting for God, God has been waiting for you. Waiting for you to stop apologizing for your age and start recognizing your authority. Waiting for you to understand that your wrinkles are not decline, they're evidence of divine endurance. Before we journey deeper into this sacred moment together, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. Right now, something is stirring in your chest, isn't it? That familiar flutter when heaven touches earth. That's not your imagination, that's recognition. Your spirit knows what your mind is about to discover. If this resonates in your soul already, type AMEN. Say it aloud. Let heaven hear your agreement. Because what I'm about to reveal will explain why every delay, every disappointment, every moment you felt forgotten was actually divine positioning for this exact moment. The waiting ends today. Your appointment with destiny begins now. Why do you wake up every morning feeling like a stranger in your own life? Why does the mirror reflect back someone you no longer recognize? Why, after 7 decades of faithful service, does your heart still ache with a longing you can't name? Dear chosen one, I see you there, sitting in that chair that's molded to your body over years of waiting, the same chair where you've watched friends pass away one by one, where you've held medical reports with shaking hands, where you've wondered if anyone would even notice if you were gone tomorrow. The restlessness isn't your imagination, it's prophecy. You feel it, don't you? That gnawing in your chest that no doctor can diagnose. That heaviness that settles on your shoulders when the house gets too quiet. You've tried to pray it away, tried to busy yourself with television and phone calls to children who seem too distracted to really hear you. But it persists. This isn't depression, beloved. This is anticipation. Your spirit has been sensing something your mind hasn't understood yet. Listen to what the Apostle Paul revealed in Romans 8:22-3. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our adoption to sonship, the redemption of our bodies. Groaning, that's the word Scripture uses, not complaining, not whining, groaning the deep, primal sound that comes from a soul stretched between what is and what's coming. You are that old house that creaks before the storm. Every joint in your body, every restless night, every moment when familiar comforts no longer comfort, it's all been your spirit groaning, sensing a shift in the spiritual atmosphere that your natural eyes cannot yet see. But here's what the enemy has been whispering to you. You're just getting old. This discomfort means you're dying. That's a lie straight from hell's playbook. The truth? This restlessness means you're being prepared for the greatest chapter of your entire existence. Think about it. When did Noah feel most restless? Right before God told him to build the ark. When was Moses most uncomfortable? In those final days before the burning bush encounter. When did Sarah feel most agitated? In the months before Isaac's miraculous conception at 90 years old. The restlessness you're experiencing isn't your body breaking down, it's your spirit waking up. You've been telling yourself you should be grateful for what you have. You should be content. You should accept that this is just how life is at your age. But contentment isn't your calling, chosen one. Completion island. And you haven't reached completion yet because God isn't finished with you yet. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. Those aren't the hands of someone whose work is done. Those are the hands of someone who's been seasoned, tested, refined by 7 decades of faithfulness. Every line tells a story of survival. Every spot marks a victory. Every tremor carries the weight of prayers that moved mountains. The world sees age and thinks decline. Heaven sees maturity and thinks deployment. But I know what you're thinking. I'm too tired. I've given enough. I've suffered enough. Surely God doesn't expect more from me now. That exhaustion you feel, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been carrying something massive for decades, and now finally God is about to show you what it was for. You've been like a woman pregnant for 70 years, carrying a promise you couldn't birth until this exact moment in history. The groaning, the discomfort, the restlessness, those are labor pains. Something eternal is about to be born through your life. Don't turn away from that discomfort. Don't medicate it with distractions. Don't apologize for it or explain it away. It's not failure, it's God's preparation. Your spirit has been stretching, expanding, preparing to carry something it's never carried before. Every friend you've buried prepared you to value time differently. Every diagnosis you've received taught you to trust God's timing over medical timelines. Every disappointment that didn't kill you built the kind of faith that can't be shaken by circumstances. You think you've been getting older. The truth is, you've been getting ready. The very restlessness that keeps you up at night, that makes you question everything, that leaves you feeling like you don't belong in this world anymore, that's your spirit recognizing that you're not supposed to belong here anymore. Not in the same way, not with the same limitations, not accepting the same lies about what's possible at your age. The 15th of September and 16th aren't random dates. They're the appointed times when heaven breaks the silence and reveals what all this preparation has been for. The groaning stops. The labor ends. And what's been growing in the secret place of your spirit finally comes forth. But what exactly are you being prepared for? What has God been developing in you through 7 decades of testing, refining, and faithful endurance? The answer will unfold in layers before this message ends, and when it does, you'll understand why every restless night was worth it. The question that will determine everything is this: will you trust the process even when you can't see the purpose? Beloved, I need you to think back. Think back to the moment that nearly broke you. Maybe it was 30 years ago when your spouse walked out that door for the last time. Maybe it was 22 years ago when the doctor said those 3 words that changed everything. It spread throughout. Maybe it was just 5 years ago when you buried the child you never thought you'd outlive. In that moment, did it feel like God was orchestrating anything, or did it feel like he had abandoned the conductor's podium and left you drowning in chaos? Here's what I'm about to show you, chosen one. What looked like your destruction was actually your construction. What felt like divine neglect was divine architecture. Every tear, every scream, every night you begged God to explain himself. He was weaving something so magnificent that your human eyes couldn't see the pattern from where you stood. Picture a master weaver working on a tapestry. You're sitting beneath the loom, watching loose threads dangle, seeing knots and tangles, witnessing what looks like a mess. Dark threads crossing over light ones, rough patches that hurt to touch. From underneath, it looks chaotic, random, even cruel. But the weaver sees from above. Every dark thread has its place. Every rough patch serves the design. Every apparent mistake is actually mastery in motion. That betrayal when your business partner stole everything you built that wasn't random cruelty, that was God repositioning you away from a venture that would have consumed your soul. That diagnosis that terrified you into sleepless nights that wasn't divine punishment, that was heaven's alarm clock, waking you up to what truly matters before it was too late. Genesis 50-20 captures this divine mystery perfectly. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Joseph spoke these words to the brothers who sold him into slavery, who destroyed his youth, who left him rotting in an Egyptian prison. But here's the shocking truth. Without that betrayal, without that suffering, Joseph never becomes the second most powerful man in Egypt. Without the pit, there's no palace. Your pit wasn't your punishment, dear one. It was your preparation. That empty chair at your family dinner table where your prodigal son used to sit. Do you think God doesn't see it? Do you think your tears over his addiction, his rebellion, his silence haven't been collected in heaven's bottles? What if I told you that every prayer you've whispered over that boy has been building an invisible net beneath him? What if his wandering isn't the end of his story but the beginning of his testimony? But here's where most people miss it. They're so focused on the pain of the process that they never see the purpose of the pattern. They get stuck staring at the tangled underside of God's tapestry instead of trusting that heaven sees the masterpiece. Listen to me carefully. That financial ruin that forced you to downsize at 73, what if that wasn't failure but freedom? Freedom from possessions that were possessing you. Freedom from a lifestyle that was slowly strangling your soul. What if God allowed you to lose what you thought you needed so you could find what you actually need? That diagnosis that made you face your mortality, what if that wasn't a death sentence but a life sentence? A divine verdict that said, "You've been sleepwalking through your days, and I love you too much to let you waste whatever time remains." You see, chosen one, pain has a purpose that pleasure never can. Comfort teaches us nothing. Ease builds no character. But suffering is God's university where he graduates souls with PhDs in faith, master's degrees in mercy, and doctorates in endurance. Think about it. Would you be the prayer warrior you are today if you'd never needed to fight battles on your knees? Would you have the compassion that draws broken people to your door if you'd never been shattered yourself? Would you carry the authority you carry if you'd never been tested in the furnace of affliction? That's the divine paradox. Your greatest weakness became your greatest weapon. Your deepest wound became your most powerful ministry. Your most humiliating failure became your most compelling testimony. But here's the part that will shock you. God wasn't just orchestrating your individual story. He was orchestrating your generational story. Every test you passed, every trial you survived, every mountain you climbed broke generational curses for children not yet born. Your endurance today becomes their inheritance tomorrow. What you thought was punishment was actually positioning you to be exactly where you needed to be, exactly when you needed to be there, carrying exactly what someone else desperately needs to receive. That's why you're still here, beloved. That's why you survived the heart attack that should have taken you. That's why you outlived the cancer that claimed your friends. That's why you're breathing this very breath while listening to these very words. Because your story isn't finished. The tapestry isn't complete. God has been orchestrating every movement, every moment, every seeming mistake to bring you to this exact point, the 15th of September and 16th, when you finally understand that nothing, absolutely nothing, has been wasted. If you believe God wastes nothing, if you can finally see His hand in your past pain, declare it right now. My pain has a purpose, because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what that purpose is and why everything you've endured has been preparing you for the most important assignment of your entire life. You want to know why these dates, why the 15th of September and 16th have been circled in heaven's calendar since before you took your first breath. Because God doesn't operate on human time, He operates on divine appointments. And beloved, your appointment has arrived. Listen to me carefully. Some of you have been praying the same prayer for 40 years, the same desperate cry that escapes your lips every morning. God, when will you move in my life? You've watched younger generations receive their breakthroughs while you remained in the waiting room of faith. You've wondered if your ticket got lost, if your number was skipped, if somehow the blessing train passed your station without stopping. But what if I told you that every unanswered prayer wasn't neglect, it was preparation? What if every delay wasn't denial, it was divine timing, aligning with a moment so precisely orchestrated that one day early or one day late would have changed everything? The 15th of September and 16th are not just days on your kitchen calendar. They are thresholds carved into eternity. They are doors that swing open once in a lifetime, and when they close, they will not open the same way again. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares with thunderous authority, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Notice it doesn't say to some things there is a season. It says to everything. Your healing, your restoration, your breakthrough, your vindication, your moment of divine intervention. But here's what breaks my heart and should terrify every believer. Most people miss their season because they're looking for it to arrive in the wrong package. They expect their miracle to look like their neighbor's blessing. They expect God's timing to match their timeline. They expect their breakthrough to feel comfortable, familiar, easy to recognize. Wrong. Dead wrong. Divine appointments rarely arrive with announcement. They slip in disguised as ordinary weekends. They hide behind dates that seem random to everyone except the one who scheduled them. Moses didn't know that the day he saw the burning bush would change the trajectory of 2 million lives. Esther didn't know that one conversation with Mordecai would position her to save an entire nation. David didn't know that facing Goliath on one ordinary morning would establish his kingship forever. And you don't know that the 15th of September and 16th carry the weight of your entire destiny. Why now? Why this exact weekend when you feel tired, forgotten, overlooked by a world that worships youth and dismisses wisdom? Because God specializes in using what the world discards. Because your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Because the very season when society says you're finished is precisely when heaven says you're finally ready. You see, most believers spend their lives begging God for breakthrough. But breakthrough isn't something you receive, it's something you step into. And stepping requires courage that only comes from desperation mixed with divine timing. The kind of desperation you feel when you realize you're running out of tomorrows. The kind of divine timing that says, now or never. Abraham was 75 when God called him to leave everything. Sarah was 90 when she conceived the impossible. Moses was 80 when he confronted Pharaoh. Caleb was 85 when he demanded his mountain. And you sitting there wondering if your time has passed, you are standing on the edge of your greatest chapter. But time is running out. Not your lifetime, God's patience with delay. How many times has heaven opened a door for you only to watch you hesitate until it closed? How many divine appointments have you missed because fear convinced you to wait for a better moment? How many seasons of blessing have slipped through your fingers because you were too busy looking backward to step forward? The 15th of September and 16th represent the end of excuses. The end of someday, and maybe, and when I'm ready. These dates mark the divine deadline where God says, enough waiting, enough preparing, Enough rehearsing. It's showtime. But here's the catch, and this is where most people stumble. Divine thresholds require abandonment. You cannot carry your old identity into your new assignment. You cannot drag your limitations across the line into your breakthrough. You cannot hold on to what was while reaching for what island. The threshold demands death. Death to the version of you that settles for surviving instead of thriving. Death to the voice that whispers, "You're too old, too late, too damaged." Death to the mindset that believes your best days are behind you when God is declaring they're directly ahead. Why this weekend specifically? Because something has been building in the spiritual realm. Pressure has been mounting. Prayers have been accumulating. Faith has been tested to its breaking point. And now, right now, the atmosphere is pregnant with possibility. The spiritual barometric pressure is dropping. The storm of breakthrough is about to hit. But storms require preparation. You cannot drift into your destiny. You cannot accidentally align with your assignment. You must choose, deliberately, decisively, desperately. Say this with me, and I mean out loud. I will not miss my door. Say it again. I will not miss my door. Because what happens in the next 48 hours will either catapult you into the greatest season of your life, or you'll spend the next 10 years wondering what could have been. The choice is yours. The timing is God's. The opportunity is now. But what exactly opens when you step through this threshold? What waits on the other side of the 16th of September that doesn't exist today? Hold on, we're about to discover the shocking truth about what God has been preparing for those brave enough to cross over. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, you're standing at the most dangerous crossroads of your entire life. Not dangerous because you might fail, but dangerous because you might succeed. And success terrifies the version of you that's been running your life for decades. You feel it, don't you? That pull backward. That whisper saying, maybe nothing's really changed. Maybe you're just getting your hopes up again like all those other times. The enemy of your soul is working overtime right now, desperate to drag you back into the grave you've been climbing out of. But here's what hell doesn't want you to know. The very fact that you can no longer tolerate what you once accepted as normal is ironclad proof that transformation has already taken place. You think you're the same person you were last month? Then why does your old life suddenly feel like wearing clothes 3 sizes too small? The truth is, 2 versions of you are locked in mortal combat right now. The old you familiar, predictable, safe in its misery. And the new you unknown, untested, but burning with divine potential. And here's the shocking reality. Only one can survive what's coming next. The old you knows every excuse by heart. I'm too old to change now. This is just who I am. My family has always struggled with this. I've tried before and failed. That voice isn't wisdom, it's the death rattle of a version of yourself that knows its time is up. But the new you remembers what it felt like to believe God could do anything. The new you carries dreams that refuse to die despite decades of disappointment. The new you looks at your wrinkled hands and sees weapons of warfare, not evidence of defeat. You want to know why the battle is so intense right now? Because the enemy sees what's about to be born through you, and he's terrified. He's watched you survive every attack, every setback, every moment when you should have given up but didn't. And now, at 75, 80, 90 years old, you're more dangerous to his kingdom than you've ever been. The writer of Hebrews understood this warfare when he declared, "Let us lay aside every weight, and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us." Every weight. Not some weights, not the convenient weights. Every weight that has been slowing you down, wearing you out, keeping you small. That bitterness you've been nursing for 30 years. It's a weight. That fear of death that wakes you up at night. It's a weight. That addiction to complaining about everything wrong with the world. It's a weight. That gossip that makes you feel connected but leaves you empty. It's a weight. And I need to tell you something that's going to cut deep. You've been carrying these weights so long, You think they're part of your identity. You think, if I let go of my anger, who will I be? If I stop being the family victim, what's my role? If I release this addiction, what will fill the void? But here's the revelation that will set you free. You were never meant to be defined by what wounded you. You were meant to be defined by what healed you. You were never meant to be known for what broke you. You were meant to be known for what God built through the breaking. The enemy is whispering lies right now. You're too set in your ways. Change is for young people. You've been this way for decades. Why start now? But every fiber of your being is screaming back. Because I refuse to die the same person I've been living as. This is your Gethsemane moment. Jesus himself wrestled in that garden, sweat becoming drops of blood, crying out, "Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me." Even the Son of God felt the weight of what transformation demands. But then came the surrender. "Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done." Two versions of you cannot walk into tomorrow. The old you that makes excuses and the new you that makes miracles. The old you that rehearses problems and the new you that declares solutions. The old you that dies a little every day and the new you that comes alive with holy fire. One must die so the other can live. And the death isn't gradual, it's sudden, violent, complete, like a snake shedding its skin, like a butterfly exploding from its cocoon, like Jesus bursting from that tomb on the third day. Death, then resurrection, nothing in between. Right now, I need you to do something that will terrify the old you and liberate the new you. I need you to name it, say it out loud. That weight you've been carrying, that pattern you've been repeating, that cycle you've been trapped in, call it by name and break its grip in Jesus' name. Is it the bottle that's been your companion for 40 years? Name it. Is it the resentment toward your children that's poisoned every family gathering? Name it. Is it the fear that's kept you locked in a prison of your own making? Name it. Because until you name it, you can't break it. Until you speak it, you can't defeat it. Until you drag it into the light, it will keep operating in the darkness of your denial. The clock is ticking. Chosen one. The 15th of September and 16th aren't just dates, they're deadlines. Deadlines for the death of who you were and the birth of who you're becoming. But here's the question that will determine your eternity. Will you have the courage to let the old you die? Or will you cling to the familiar grave and miss the resurrection that's already been prepared for you? Listen to me, chosen one. Every tear you've shed in secret, every sleepless night wondering if God still sees you, every moment you felt invisible while the world celebrates younger voices, it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You think you've been delayed? You think your season has passed? You think 75, 80, 85 years on this earth means God is finished with you? You couldn't be more wrong. Here's what the enemy has been hiding from you all these decades. Your endurance isn't just for you. Your survival isn't just personal victory. Your refusal to give up when everything screamed quit wasn't just stubborn determination. It was generational warfare. You've been fighting battles for children not yet born, breaking chains for grandchildren who will inherit freedom instead of bondage. Deuteronomy 7-9 declares something that will shake you to your core. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments. 1,000 generations. Do you understand what that means? Your faithfulness at 80 doesn't just affect your remaining years, it echoes through 10 centuries of your bloodline. Every prayer you whispered when arthritis made kneeling painful was heard by heaven. Every time you chose forgiveness when bitterness would have been easier, you rewrote your family's spiritual DNA. Every moment you trusted God when your bank account said otherwise, you established a legacy of faith that your great-great-grandchildren will inherit. But here's where most people miss it. They see an 80-year-old woman in a nursing home and think sunset. God sees a spiritual archer whose bowstring has been pulled back for 8 decades. And he's about to release an arrow that will pierce through generations of darkness. You know what happens to an arrow before it flies? It gets pulled backward. The further back, the more powerful the release. That financial struggle in your 30s, that was the bow being drawn. The betrayal that broke your heart in your 50s, another inch of tension. The health scare that brought you to your knees in your 70s, the final positioning before launch. You thought those were setbacks. They were setups. Think about a seed. Before it becomes a mighty oak that shelters hundreds, it must first disappear into darkness. It must be buried. It must be crushed by the weight of soil above it. From the surface it looks dead, gone, forgotten. But beneath the ground, in the darkness you can't see, roots are spreading, life is multiplying, power is building. That's been your story, hasn't it? Buried under circumstances that should have destroyed you, crushed by pressures that would have killed weaker souls. But you're still here, still breathing, still believing. Because you weren't being buried, you were being planted. And now the soil is cracking. Now the first green shoot is pushing through. Now the world is about to see what God has been growing in the darkness of your trials. Your adult children think you're past your prime. Your doctors see decline. Society sees a burden. But heaven sees a loaded weapon about to be unleashed. A generational game changer who's been in training for 8 decades, finally ready for deployment. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver Israel. 80. While Pharaoh was building monuments to himself, Moses was building character in the wilderness. While Egypt celebrated temporary power, Moses was accumulating eternal authority. And when the moment came, when heaven said, "Now 180-year-old man brought the greatest empire on earth to its knees," that's not history, beloved. That's prophecy. That's your story waiting to be written. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. This window won't stay open forever. The 15th of September and 16th aren't just dates. They're divine appointments. Kairos moments when eternity intersects with time. When what's been building in secret finally explodes into the open. The enemy knows what's coming. That's why the attacks have been so vicious lately. That's why the doubt has been so loud. That's why everything seems to be falling apart, just when you thought you might finally rest. He's throwing everything he has at you because he knows once you step into this revelation, once you understand that your delay was actually your launch preparation, there's no stopping what God will do through you. Your grandchildren need to see what faith looks like when it's been tested by fire. Your community needs to witness what happens when someone refuses to quit at the finish line. This generation needs to learn from someone who's walked with God long enough to know his voice from the static of circumstances. You are the arrow that's been pulled back for 8 decades. You are the seed that's been buried in the darkness of trial. You are the weapon that heaven has been secretly forging while the world wrote you off. This isn't your sunset, chosen one. This is your launch season. And right now, in this sacred moment, heaven is asking you one question. Will you let yourself be released? Will you stop apologizing for your age and start walking in your authority? Will you finally understand that your greatest assignment isn't behind you, it's directly ahead? Stand up where you are, right now. I don't care if you're sitting in a wheelchair or lying in a hospital bed. Stand up in your spirit, lift your hand toward heaven, and declare with the authority of 8 decades of tested faith, "This is my launch season. God is not finished with me. I am the arrow he's been preparing to release." Say it until you feel it. Declare it until you believe it. Because what happens next will determine not just your legacy, but the destiny of generations you'll never meet who will rise because you refuse to fall. Listen to me, chosen one. We've reached the moment of truth, the crossroads where eternity meets decision, where your past collides with your purpose, where the 15th of September and 16th stop being dates on a calendar and become the threshold of your destiny. You want to know why these dates matter? Why heaven carved them into your timeline like commandments in stone. Because for 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been carrying a burden that was never yours to bear. The burden of proving your worth to a world that measures value by youth, by productivity, by what you can produce instead of what you've endured. But here's the hidden law that will shatter every chain around your spirit. Destiny cannot be stolen. It cannot be erased by age. It cannot be diminished by time. It cannot be cancelled by human opinion. But beloved, it can be forfeited. It can be surrendered. It can be traded away for the false comfort of believing the lie that says your season is over. Right now, at this very moment, you stand at the same crossroads that Joshua presented to Israel, not in the wilderness of Sinai, but in the wilderness of your own doubt. Joshua 24-15 thunders across the centuries. Choose this day whom you will serve. Choose this day, not tomorrow when you feel braver, not next week when circumstances look better, not when your children finally call. Today, this hour, this breath, will you serve the voice that whispers too old, too late, too broken, or will you bow before the God who specializes in using what the world has discarded? Think about that letter in the mailbox. Remember, the one that waited 43 years while life piled ordinary mail on top of it. The one sealed with heaven's own hand, containing every answer to every midnight prayer. This message, this moment, this divine appointment, it is that letter. And the 15th of September and 16th are the days. Heaven refuses to let you walk past your mailbox without opening what's been waiting for you. You think God forgot you when your husband died. You think he abandoned you when your children moved away. You think he turned his back when the doctor delivered that diagnosis. But what if every single loss was God clearing your schedule for something greater? What if every closed door was him protecting you from settling for less than his best? Sarah laughed when God promised her a son at 90. 90. She looked at her withered womb and laughed at the impossibility. But Genesis 21-6 records her words after Isaac's birth. God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. Her laughter of doubt became laughter of triumph. Her season of barrenness became her season of breakthrough. Moses was 80 when the burning bush called his name. 80 years of thinking his moment had passed. But God wasn't looking for someone in their prime. He was looking for someone refined by time, purified by failure, humbled by disappointment. Someone who understood that when God moves, age becomes irrelevant. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she saw the Christ child. 84 years of waiting, praying, believing. The young mothers brought their babies to the temple, but it was Anna, ancient Anna, forgotten Anna, seemingly invisible Anna, who recognized the Messiah of the world. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your certification. Your wrinkles aren't evidence of decay, they're proof of endurance. Your slower steps aren't weakness, they're wisdom choosing its path carefully. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. Windows close, seasons shift. Divine appointments have expiration dates. Not because God is cruel, but because timing in the kingdom operates on frequencies you can't see. When heaven opens a door, it expects movement. When the Spirit whispers your name, it requires response. The 15th of September and 16th aren't random dates. They're divine coordinates. Moments when the veil between heaven and earth grows thin over your life specifically. When your prayers of decades suddenly have a direct line to the throne room. When the God who has been preparing you in secret decides it's time for public demonstration. The enemy knows what these dates represent. That's why the doubt is so loud. That's why the fear feels so real. That's why everyone around you seems to be sleeping while you're wide awake with holy restlessness. Satan recognizes divine appointments before most believers do, and he's throwing everything he has at you to make you miss yours. But you won't miss it. You can't miss it, because the same God who orchestrated this moment, who led you to this message, who stirred your spirit to listen this far, he's not going to let you walk away empty-handed. This message was delivered to you today because heaven refuses to let you miss your appointed hour. Every detour that brought you here, every disappointment that left you hungry for more, every loss that made you desperate for God, it was all GPS coordinates leading to this moment. The letter has been opened. The seal has been broken. The words of your destiny are spreading across the page of your life like ink on paper. But reading isn't enough. Knowing isn't enough. Agreement isn't enough. The kingdom requires declaration. It demands that you open your mouth and call things that are not as though they were. That you speak life into dead situations. That you command your circumstances to align with God's will instead of begging them to change. So I'm asking you now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready right now. Will you walk through the door that the 15th of September and 16th have opened? Will you step across the threshold from surviving to thriving, from existing to reigning, from forgotten to favored? Heaven is holding its breath. Angels are leaning in. The cloud of witnesses who've gone before you are cheering you on. Your grandmother, who prayed for your generation. Your grandfather, who carried dreams he never saw fulfilled. They're all watching, waiting for your yes. Type Amen if you're ready to stop apologizing for your age and start walking in your authority. Shout Amen if you're tired of living beneath your calling. Let the walls of your house echo with your declaration that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is still your God, and his promises don't expire with your birth certificate. Heaven is waiting for your yes. Destiny is holding the door. Your appointed hour has arrived. Will you walk through, or will you let fear convince you to turn back? The choice is yours. The moment is now. And chosen one, your answer will echo through eternity. You crossed the line. The 15th of September and 16th have passed through your soul like fire through dry wood, and now you're standing in the aftermath. But something feels wrong, doesn't it? The ground beneath your feet looks the same, but it doesn't feel the same. Your relationships suddenly seem fragile, like glass balanced on the edge of a table. Conversations that once flowed naturally now feel forced, strained, heavy with unspoken tension. People you've known for decades are looking at you differently, and you can't explain why. Your own reflection feels like a stranger's face staring back at you. This is what they don't tell you about crossing spiritual thresholds, chosen one. After every earthquake, the ground looks perfectly calm, but everything underneath has shifted forever. The fault lines of your life have moved, the foundations have been rearranged, and while the surface appears untouched, your spirit knows that nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever be the same again. You're experiencing what I call the divine aftershock. Listen to me carefully. This disorientation you're feeling isn't a sign that you've made a mistake. It's not evidence that God has abandoned you. It's not proof that you imagined the whole encounter. This is the natural consequence of touching eternity while still wearing human skin. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai after 40 days in God's presence, his face was so radiant that the Israelites couldn't even look at him. Exodus 34-30 tells us they were afraid to come near him. Picture that moment. Moses, after the most intimate encounter with the Almighty in human history, comes home to find that even his own people can't bear to be around him. The very blessing that transformed him had created a chasm between him and everyone he loved. Does this sound familiar? Have you noticed that since the 15th of September and 16th, some people can't seem to tolerate your presence anymore? Have conversations become awkward where they used to be easy? Have friends started avoiding your phone calls? Have family members begun treating you like you've joined some strange cult? You haven't lost your mind, dear one. You've gained your assignment. And assignments always create separation before they create elevation. But here's what's tearing at your heart right now. The loneliness feels unbearable. You thought crossing the threshold would bring you closer to people, not drive them away. You thought spiritual breakthrough would make life easier, not more complicated. You prayed for years to hear God's voice clearly, but now that you have, you're wondering if the price was too high. The prophet Haggai understood this cosmic shaking. In Haggai 2:6-7, God declares, "In a little while I will once more shake the heavens and the earth, the sea and the dry land. I will shake all nations, and what is desired by all nations will come, and I will fill this house with glory." God doesn't apologize for the shaking. He doesn't minimize the trauma of transformation. He simply declares that the shaking is necessary for His glory to be revealed. But notice something crucial in this passage. The shaking comes before the glory. The earthquake precedes the treasure. What you're experiencing right now isn't punishment for crossing over. It's preparation for what's coming next. Every structure in your life that's feeling unstable right now, that marriage that suddenly feels strained, that friendship that's grown cold, that church that no longer feels like home, that job that's become unbearable, these aren't random casualties of spiritual growth. These are deliberate demolitions. God is tearing down everything that cannot support the weight of what He's about to place on your life. You can't carry new wine in old wineskins. You can't download heaven's frequency through outdated spiritual equipment. The very relationships and routines that sustained you in your old season would suffocate you in your new one. But the enemy wants you to misinterpret this sacred destruction. He wants you to believe that the shaking means you've made a terrible mistake. He whispers that if God really called you, your life would be getting easier, not harder. He suggests that true spiritual breakthrough brings peace, not chaos. That's a lie designed to make you retreat back across the threshold you fought so hard to cross. The truth is this: what looks like everything falling apart is actually everything falling into place. What feels like divine rejection is divine protection. What appears to be God tearing down your life is God clearing the construction site for something magnificent. Think about it. Before you build a skyscraper, what's the first thing you do? You demolish whatever was there before. You don't renovate a shack into a mansion, you tear down the shack and build the mansion from the ground up. That's exactly what God is doing with your life right now. The old foundations couldn't support the new structure. The old relationships couldn't handle the new frequency. The old routines couldn't contain the new calling. So God, in His infinite wisdom and terrible mercy, has begun the controlled demolition of everything that would limit your destiny. But I know your heart is breaking. I know you're questioning whether you heard Him correctly. I know you're tempted to go back to the way things were, even if it meant living smaller, just to stop the chaos. Don't you dare. What if the shaking wasn't destruction, but construction? What if every relationship that's crumbling is making room for divine connections you can't even imagine yet? What if every door that's slamming shut is protecting you from settling for less than God's best? What if every structure that's collapsing is clearing space for something so magnificent that your current mind couldn't even conceive it? The silence you're experiencing right now isn't emptiness. It's the sound of God working. When construction crews build skyscrapers, there are seasons when all you hear is demolition, loud, chaotic, seemingly destructive. But eventually, the noise stops, the dust settles, and where there was once chaos, a masterpiece emerges that takes your breath away. You're in the demolition phase, chosen one. Don't misinterpret the silence. If you're still standing after the shaking, if you're still here despite everything feeling unstable, if you're still believing despite the aftershock, type "I'm still standing right now." Let heaven see your declaration. Let the enemy hear your defiance. Let your own spirit remember its strength. Because what I'm about to reveal next will explain why you had to go through this specific type of spiritual earthquake, and why the treasure buried beneath all this rubble is worth every moment of the shaking. Chosen ones, the valley you're in is not empty. It's holy ground. I know you can't see it. I know it feels like abandonment. I know you've been sitting in that same chair for months, maybe years, watching the clock tick away your golden years while heaven stays silent as a tomb. You've prayed until your knees wore grooves in the carpet. You've cried until your tears ran dry. You've whispered his name into the darkness until your voice cracked from the weight of unanswered pleas. And still, silence. But what if I told you that the very silence that's been suffocating your faith is actually the sacred space where your greatest miracle is being formed? Listen to me carefully, dear one. You think you're buried, but seeds aren't buried, they're planted. There's a difference that will change everything about how you see this season. A coffin buries what's dead, but soil cradles what's about to explode with life. Right now, 3 feet underground, invisible to every eye, a single acorn is splitting apart. The hard shell that protected it for months is cracking. The process looks like death, feels like death. But what's really happening is birth. That acorn is surrendering its old form so the oak tree can emerge. The mighty oak that will stand for centuries, providing shade for generations not yet born. You are that acorn, chosen one. And this silence isn't your burial, it's your becoming. Psalm 46:10 thunders across the ages, "Be still and know that I am God." Not be busy, not be loud, not be performing, be still. In Hebrew, that word still means to cease striving, to let go, to stop fighting the process that's already working on your behalf. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been taught to fear the quiet. You've been conditioned to believe that if God isn't speaking, he isn't working. You've been deceived into thinking that silence equals separation. So you fill every moment with noise, television, radio, phone calls, anything to drown out the sacred stillness where transformation lives. Why are you so afraid of quiet? Why does 3 minutes without distraction feel like 3 hours in solitary confinement? Because the enemy knows something about silence that most believers never discover. Silence is where God does his deepest work. It's where he rewrites the code of your DNA. It's where he downloads the blueprints for your next chapter. Moses spent 40 years in silent wilderness before he split the Red Sea. Jesus disappeared into the desert for 40 days of silence before he launched the greatest ministry in human history. Elijah heard God's voice, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, not in the wind, but in the still, small voice that whispers only to those who stop running long enough to listen. Your silence isn't punishment, beloved. It's preparation. Look at your life right now. Really look. How many conversations have grown cold? How many friendships have faded without explanation? How many doors have closed with a finality that left you gasping? You called it rejection. You called it abandonment. You called it God forgetting his promises. But what if every person who walked away, every opportunity that dissolved, every dream that seemed to die was actually God clearing the stage for something so magnificent that it required complete silence to hear the instructions? The silence you curse is the womb of your next miracle. Think about it. When a woman is pregnant, the most crucial development happens in complete darkness, in perfect silence, hidden from every observer. No one can see the intricate work taking place. No cameras can capture the moment DNA spirals into destiny. No doctor can predict the exact moment when cells become consciousness. The greatest miracle of life unfolds in absolute silence. That's where you are right now, chosen one, in the womb of divine purpose. The silence isn't evidence that nothing is happening, it's evidence that everything is happening. Every delay has been adding layers to your testimony. Every unanswered prayer has been accumulating compound interest in heaven's bank. Every tear you've cried in secret has been watering the seeds of a harvest you can't yet imagine. But why does it hurt so much? Because silence requires you to trust without evidence, to believe without proof, to hold faith when your hands are empty and your heart is aching. It strips away every false comfort, every human crutch, every distraction that keeps you from hearing the voice that matters most. Here's what the silence is teaching you. God's voice doesn't compete with the noise of your circumstances. His whisper doesn't shout over the chaos of your fears. When he's ready to speak the word that changes everything, he demands your complete attention. And sometimes, the only way to get it is to remove everything else. So why the 15th of September and 16th? Why now, after all these months and years of waiting? Because your ears have finally been tuned to the right frequency. The silence has done its work. It has prepared you to hear what heaven has been trying to tell you all along. The valley of divine silence is ending, beloved. But not because God is finally ready to speak. Because you are finally ready to listen. Say it gently with me. Silence is sacred. Feel those words settle into your spirit, like seeds finding soil. Silence is sacred. Let them echo in the chambers of your heart until they become the rhythm of your breath. The seed is about to break open. The silence is about to give birth to sound. And when it does, every person who counted you out, every voice that declared you finished, every circumstance that tried to bury you, will witness the most stunning reversal they've ever seen. But are you ready for what's coming next? Because the breakthrough that's building in this silence won't look anything like what you've been expecting. Look at yourself right now, chosen one. Really look. What do you see when you catch your reflection in the bathroom mirror at 2 a.m.? Do you see the person God called you to be, or do you see decades of compromise staring back at you? Here's the brutal truth most preachers won't tell you. You've been living as a shadow of who heaven designed you to be. For 70, 80 years, you've been looking in a cracked mirror that only shows you yesterday's failures, yesterday's mistakes, yesterday's version of yourself that God already buried and forgot. That arthritis in your hands? You call it aging. But what if it's actually your spirit crying out because you've spent decades gripping things God told you to release? Those sleepless nights at 3 a.m. You blame it on your bladder, but your soul knows better. It's the Holy Spirit keeping you awake because your time of slumber is over. Let me paint you a picture that will shatter your comfortable Christianity. You're standing in front of an antique mirror in your grandmother's attic. The glass is spider-webbed with cracks, each fracture telling a story of regret. You see your 18-year-old self who had dreams bigger than the sky. You see your 30-year-old self who compromised those dreams for security. You see your 50-year-old self who gave up entirely and called it wisdom. But here's what that cracked mirror can't show you. The person you're becoming right now. You think those family dinners where your children barely look up from their phones are normal. You think it's natural that your grandchildren call you by your first name and treat you like a stranger. You think it's acceptable that after decades of marriage, you and your spouse live like polite roommates. That's not age, beloved. That's the consequence of looking in the wrong mirror for too long. The enemy has had you focused on a reflection that died years ago, while God has been trying to show you a vision that's being born today. You've been mourning who you used to be instead of celebrating who you're becoming. You've been apologizing for your wrinkles when God calls them wisdom lines. You've been hiding your gray hair when heaven calls it your crown of glory. 2 Corinthians 5:17 declares with thunderous authority, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new." Not will become new, have become new. Present tense, already done, already accomplished. But you can't see the new creation while you're staring at the old reflection. Do you know why that mirror keeps showing you the past? Because the devil knows that if you ever see who God says you are right now at 75, at 82, at 91, you would stop making excuses and start making moves. You would stop rehearsing your regrets and start walking in your authority. You think it's too late to repair that relationship with your son. The mirror tells you that wound is permanent. You think it's too late to start that ministry burning in your heart. The mirror whispers that ship has sailed. You think it's too late to become the person you always knew you could be. The mirror laughs and shows you every opportunity you missed. But God is saying something different. He's saying, the mirror is lying. That financial struggle that's followed you for decades. It's not your identity, it's your test. That depression that visits you every winter. It's not your portion, it's your training ground for breakthrough. That loneliness that makes you feel forgotten. It's not your future, it's your preparation for influence. The reason you can't fix your problems by looking in that old mirror is because the solution isn't in your past, it's in your present. It's in who you are right now, at this moment, hearing these words, feeling that stirring in your chest that says something is about to change. Here's the shocking truth that will revolutionize everything. The mirror is breaking because God doesn't want you trapped in yesterday's reflection. Every crack in that glass represents a limitation God is shattering. Every fracture is a prison door He's opening. Every broken piece is a lie about your age, your worth, your potential falling to the ground where it belongs. You've spent decades looking at who you were. It's time to see who you are. The woman who raised 4 children while working 2 jobs, she's still in there. The man who built a business from nothing and provided for his family, he's still in there. The dreamer, the believer, the warrior who survived everything hell threw at them, they're all still in there, just waiting for you to stop looking backward and start looking forward. This is your moment of reckoning, chosen one. This is where you decide whether you'll keep worshipping at the altar of regret or step into the temple of redemption. Close your eyes right now. I'm serious, close them. Picture that cracked mirror in front of you. See every line, every fracture, every piece that's held your past together. Now watch as God's hand reaches out and shatters it completely. Watch the old reflection disappear. Feel the weight of yesterday's identity falling away like chains. If you can feel that freedom, if you can sense those chains breaking, type it right now or declare it out loud. I release the old me. Because the person staring back at you when you open your eyes isn't who you used to be. It's who you've always been, underneath the lies, the limitations, the regrets. It's the chosen one God has been waiting to unveil for 70 years. But releasing the old you is only the beginning. What happens next will determine whether this moment becomes a memory or a miracle. Listen carefully, chosen one. Can you hear it? That echo in the distance. It's the sound of footsteps on ancient stone, your footsteps climbing a staircase that was built before time began. In the great cathedral of your destiny, there stands a spiral staircase, each step carved from marble that has witnessed the prayers of saints, the tears of the faithful, the cries of those who dared to believe when belief felt impossible. And today, the 15th of September and 16th, you stand at the bottom of those stairs, looking up into a light so brilliant it takes your breath away. But here's the question that's haunting your soul right now. Why have you been standing at the bottom for so long? Why does every step upward feel like climbing Mount Everest when others seem to glide effortlessly toward their breakthrough? The answer will shock you. You've been waiting for permission that was already granted before you took your first breath. Psalm 24 verse 3 asks the question that has echoed through eternity. Who may ascend the hill of the Lord? Who may stand in His holy place? But beloved, the next verse gives you the answer that will set you free. The one who has clean hands and a pure heart. Not perfect hands, clean hands. Not an untested heart, a pure heart. And every trial you've endured, every tear you've shed, every midnight hour you've spent crying out to God, that was the cleansing. That was the purification. You've already qualified for the climb. The first step, release. Your foot hovers over the first marble step, and suddenly you feel the weight. Not of the climb ahead, but of everything you've been carrying behind you. The first step isn't upward, it's letting go. Release. That grudge you've nursed for 23 years. That shame from a mistake you made in 1987. That fear that whispers you're too old, too broken, too late. Every step you take on this staircase echoes louder than the last, because each one is a declaration that the old ground cannot hold you anymore. But here's what terrifies most people about release. What if letting go means losing yourself? What if the pain has become so familiar that you don't know who you are without it? Listen to me, dear one. You are not your wounds. You are not your failures. You are not the sum of your regrets. You are a child of the Most High God, and it's time to start climbing like it. The second step, renewal. The second step feels different under your feet. Lighter somehow, Because when you released what was never yours to carry, you made room for what heaven has been trying to give you. Renewal. Not just restoration, transformation. Not just fixing what was broken, creating something that never existed before. Isaiah 40:31 promises that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. But notice what comes before the soaring. The hoping, the waiting, the trusting, when everything around you screams that hope is foolish at your age. You've been renewed, chosen one. Your strength isn't returning, it's evolving. Your faith isn't being repaired, it's being rewarded. And that restlessness you've been feeling, that's not dissatisfaction. That's divine dissatisfaction with anything less than your destiny. The third step, revelation. Now the staircase begins to spiral upward, and with each step, the view changes. What looked impossible from ground level suddenly reveals itself as inevitable from this height. Revelation, not just understanding, seeing, not just knowledge, knowing. The mysteries that have puzzled you for decades suddenly crystallize into perfect clarity. Why did that door close in 1992? So this door could open in 2024. Why did that relationship end when you thought it was God's will? Because God's will was bigger than your understanding. Why did you have to walk through that valley when everyone else seemed to get the mountain? Because the valley was where you learned to hear God's voice above the noise. 1 Corinthians 2:9 declares, "No eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him." You've loved him through the silence. You've trusted him through the storm. And now, on this step of revelation, you finally see why. The fourth step, resurrection. This is where your legs start to shake, not from exhaustion, but from the sheer magnitude of what you're stepping into. Resurrection, not just life after death, life after disappointment, not just rising from the grave, rising from the circumstances that buried your dreams alive. Every step you take is a declaration that the old ground cannot hold you anymore. You thought your season was over. You thought your chapter was closed. You thought God had moved on to younger, stronger, more qualified vessels. But Romans 8:11 reminds you that if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his spirit who lives in you. Your mortal body, at 75, at 82, at 91, the same power that rolled away the stone is rolling away every obstacle between you and your destiny. The echo of your footsteps on these cathedral stairs is getting louder now. Can you hear it? That's not just sound, that's prophecy. That's the sound of someone who refused to die on the ground level. That's the anthem of a chosen one who discovered that the climb isn't punishment, it's promotion. But here's the truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. You can't climb these stairs and remain the same person. Each step transforms you. Each level demands more of you. Each height requires you to let go of something you thought you needed. The question burning in your chest right now is this: are you willing to become who God always saw you as, even if it means saying goodbye to who you've always been? Comment one word below. Which step are you on right now? Release, renewal, revelation, or resurrection? Because your next step depends on your honesty about your current step. And remember, chosen one, the view from the top is worth every agonizing step it takes to get there. Dear chosen one, I need you to understand something that will shake you to your very core. That depression you battled in your 40s, that wasn't just your struggle, it was you breaking generational curses of mental anguish that had haunted your bloodline for over a century. That financial ruin you survived in your 60s. You weren't just losing money, you were dismantling poverty chains that had strangled your family tree since your great-great-grandmother arrived on these shores with nothing but hope in her heart. The battles you fought were never just yours. They were breaking chains for those who come after you. Right now, your 16-year-old granddaughter is sitting in her bedroom, staring at college applications, feeling overwhelmed by a weight she can't name. But she doesn't know that the anxiety trying to suffocate her tonight is the same spirit of fear that tormented your mother, your grandmother, and every woman in your lineage, until the 15th of September and 16th, 2024, the dates when heaven said, "Enough, the curse stops here." Picture this. You're holding a baton in a divine relay race that's been running for generations. Your grandfather dropped it when alcohol consumed his dreams. Your mother fumbled it when abandonment broke her spirit. But you've been carrying it through valleys of shadow, across deserts of disappointment, through fires of betrayal. And now, as you stand at the finish line of your earthly race, heaven is asking one crucial question. Will you pass this baton of blessing, or will you let it fall again? Hebrews 12:1 declares, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles." Those witnesses aren't just cheering you on, they're depending on you. Your great-grandmother who died in poverty is watching. Your uncle who never overcame his addiction is hoping. Your parents who lived in fear their entire lives are praying that you'll be the one who finally breaks through. But here's what will devastate you. If you don't step into your calling these next 48 hours, if you let fear win one more time, that baton doesn't just drop, it shatters. The breakthrough that could have blessed 5 generations gets buried with your silence. The healing that could have flowed like a river through your family line dries up because you chose comfort over courage. Listen to me, warrior. Your great-granddaughter, the one who isn't even born yet, she's supposed to be a doctor. She's destined to save lives, to bring healing to hurting families. But if you don't activate your faith right now, if you don't break this spirit of limitation that's been choking your bloodline, she'll spend her life as a cashier at a grocery store, never knowing she carried the DNA of destiny in her veins. Your grandson, who's 7 years old right now, he's designed to be a leader, to stand before nations and declare the righteousness of God. But if you shrink back, if you let this moment pass, that same spirit of insignificance that made you feel invisible will wrap around his throat and convince him he's nobody special. This is why the warfare has been so intense. This is why every step forward felt like pushing through concrete. You weren't just fighting for yourself, you were fighting for the freedom of generations yet to come. Every night you chose faith over fear. You were cutting chains. Every morning you got up when staying down would have been easier. You were building bridges. Every time you forgave when bitterness would have felt justified, you were writing love letters to your unborn legacy. Your yes today will echo in children not yet born. Your breakthrough will become their birthright. Your healing will become their inheritance. Your victory will become the foundation upon which they build kingdoms. But only if you say yes. Only if you stop hiding behind "I'm too old" and start declaring "I'm right on time." Only if you understand that you're not just Martha from Brooklyn or Robert from Queens. You're the answer to a century of prayers whispered by ancestors who believed someday someone in their lineage would rise up and say, "No more." Speak the name of your children, your grandchildren. Prophesy over them right now. Declare that the chains are broken, the curses are cancelled, the blessings are flowing. Because what you release in faith today becomes their reality tomorrow. The question that will determine 5 generations is this: will you be the ancestor they thank, or the one they wish had been braver? Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to carry these truths with you like precious jewels in your heart. Remember this: the 15th of September and 16th aren't just dates on your calendar, they're divine appointments written in eternity before you took your first breath. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Every tear you've shed, every battle you've fought, every moment you felt forgotten has been preparing you for this exact moment when heaven says, "Now is your time." Remember that the struggles you've endured weren't punishments, they were preparations. The chains you've broken weren't just for you, they were for generations yet to come. You are not too late, too old, or too broken to be used by God in mighty ways. You are precisely where He needs you, when He needs you, carrying exactly what He placed within you. But hear me clearly, dear one, you are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when the breakthrough seems delayed, the Creator of the universe is working behind the scenes on your behalf. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, orchestrating blessings you can't even imagine. Romans 8:28 isn't just a verse, it's your reality. All things work together for good, to them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. And right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey. We see you, we believe in you, we will stand with you in prayer. You're not just watching a video, you're part of a family united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the love of Christ. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Knowing what you now know about God's timing, about your calling, about the generational blessing you carry, how will you walk differently when you wake up tomorrow morning? I want to hear from you in the comments below. Share what God spoke to your heart tonight. Tell us how this message has impacted your spirit. Ask us to pray for specific areas of your life. This community will surround you with intercession. And if you know someone who needs to hear these words, someone who's been feeling forgotten or overlooked, share this video with them. Let them know they're not alone in their struggle. Before I release you into your destiny, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of 5 decades walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see their hearts, the dreams deferred, the hopes that have grown weary, the faith that sometimes feels fragile. But Father, you also see their future, their calling, their victory that's already written in your book. I pray right now that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary souls. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel overwhelmed by their circumstances, be their strength and their shield. God, silence every voice of doubt that has whispered lies about their age, their worth, their ability to be used by you. Break every chain of limitation that has held them back. Open doors that no man can shut. Bring divine connections, supernatural provision, and unexpected breakthroughs into their lives. For those struggling with health, touch their bodies with your healing power. For those facing financial challenges, open the windows of heaven and pour out blessings they cannot contain. For those walking through family difficulties, bring restoration, reconciliation, and peace that surpasses all understanding. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence right now. Let them know in their spirits that they are loved beyond measure, chosen beyond doubt, and destined for greatness beyond their wildest dreams. Let them sleep tonight in perfect peace, knowing that their best days aren't behind them, they're ahead of them. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and love. Amen. Thank you for investing your precious time with us tonight. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what God wanted to pour into you. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of believers who gather here regularly to be encouraged, equipped, and empowered for kingdom living. Remember, chosen one, you are not alone, you are not forgotten, and you are never too late for God's best. Until we meet again, walk in your authority, rest in His love, and never forget your breakthrough is closer than you think. God bless you abundantly.